In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
News, low-carb, ketogenic, real food fans. A Real Good Foods company is now in all U.S. Walmart stores. They have enchiladas, poppers, cauliflower crust pizzas, mini pizza bites, and the chicken crust pizzas in 3,500 Walmart stores. Real Good Foods pizzas are grain-free, gluten-free, and of course low-carb, high-fat, ketogenic. This is real food, and now it's available at your local Walmart. Get exclusive offers from Real Good Foods by texting RGF to 474747, and be sure to visit realgoodfoods.com to learn more about Real Good Foods' ketogenic line of products. Real Good Foods.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live, and we're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, if you want to engage live in the content, you got to go follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Sometimes I also simulcast these on Facebook. Today we're traveling a little bit. That's why I'm in my car yet again. So don't have a hissy fit because I'm in my car. Some people do. They act weird that I'm in my car, but I'm in my car. It is what it is. So watch it live. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, poof, it does disappear from Instagram. Never fear, though, we put all the past episodes up on YouTube, so go follow me on YouTube. I'm also at Living Low Carb Man there. Or type in a keyword Jimmy Rant, you'll find the show. Finally, the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form. It's the Jimmy Rants podcast over on Apple Podcasts as well as Stitcher. All of these links, you guys, are at JimmyRants.com. Today's Jimmy Rants, it's not about nutrition. It's not about health. It's not about the latest weirdo tactics that the vegans are doing. It's none of that. I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I'm getting a whole bunch of emails about. Like suddenly, like out of nowhere, I've been getting all of these people saying, you're an author. Tell me how you did that. And I'm going, what are you talking about? Well, I aspire to write a book, and I wonder if a publisher would be interested. And so what I want to talk about here today is, do you want to write a book? Is that something that's in your heart? I want to give you some lessons, because I wasn't always an international best-selling author. Before that, I was also someone who wanted to write a book and thought that my great idea for a book was what people wanted. But the dirty little secret, you guys, is if you have a book in your heart, it's not about what you're going to write about. What? That's right. If you have the desire to write a book, the first and most important thing is not the topic that you're going to write about. Now, don't get me wrong. The topic that you're going to write about is going to be important. So like right now, or let's back up a couple years. Couple years ago, if you wanted to write a book about a ketogenic diet, you probably got signed because there was a lot of interest at that time. It's starting to wane a little bit now because there's just so many books out there. But people that want to write a book, they think, oh, it's the content first, and it really isn't. Let me tell you the secret to wanting to write a book and getting it published and having it become successful. You need a following. This is something that it trips people up because they're like, wait a minute, I want a book so that I can grow bigger and get a following. But it's actually the other way around. There are publishers who are looking for people that already have a pretty decent following. So let me give you some hard numbers. So if you are here on Instagram and you have a following of 5,000 people, you think that's pretty darn good. And it is, don't get me wrong. 5,000, even 10,000 followers on an Instagram page, that's pretty darn significant. But to a book publisher, it ain't. To a book publisher, they're looking for someone with maybe 75, 100,000 people or more that follow them. And you got to think of it from their perspective. Their perspective is they don't really have a marketing end. A lot of people have this false illusion that all of the marketing that happens from books happens because the publisher throws a whole bunch of money behind a marketing effort to get out there, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is most publishers, you're lucky as an author if they give you a couple of review copies to send out to people, and that's it. That's pretty much all you get as far as marketing from them. They may have some kind of a PR company that might send out a press release to try to get you on, like one of my podcasts. I get a lot of solicitations from PR people from book companies. Hey, we got this great new book, and here's a new author, blah, blah, blah. And so they're pitching to podcasters or stuff like that. But it's not about you having a good idea. It's about your following, and they want to tap into that following. So on Instagram, if you have about 75,000 to 100,000 people or more, then they'll probably give you a book. And again, this is major publishers. I'll tell you later that if you have a smaller following, how you can get published. Another thing, so on, say, Facebook, they're looking for a similar kind of size. Do you have a group or a personal page or something that's about 75 to 100,000 people? Twitter is a little less relevant than it used to be. Instagram has kind of taken over. Even Facebook has become a little bit more problematic in this area. If you have a YouTube channel and you have 50,000 subscribers, that's a really strong effort as well to be able to get a book. If you have a podcast, this is how I got my book, you guys. So when Victory Belt Publishing came along to offer me a contract to write a book, it was in 2012. At that point, I had about over 700 episodes of the Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show. And they were like, hey, we love your platform. We'd love to give you a book. What do you want to write about? And so that's how that all happened for me. And then once I got my foot in the door, and obviously when I wrote Keto Clarity, it was my first really big book. And I've had some other ones since then that have done well. But that's how I got my foot in the door. So maybe you have questions about how in the world do you get published when you don't have those kind of numbers that I just described. So there is this notion of a print on demand. So it's called a POD publisher. So there's a bunch of them out there. If you just type in print on demand publisher in a Google search, you'll find a ton of them. Let me save you some trouble because I self-published one book in 2005 with one of those that I Googled, and they were horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible. You never hear me talk about my very first book, ever, 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 ever. It's still out there. You can try to noodle around and find it if you're interested, but the publisher was just really bad. The quality of the printing paper was just horrible. It just was not a good book. So when I went to self-publish the second time, I went with a company that I highly recommend to anybody who wants to write a book. So the second publishing company that I used that was a self-publisher is called Create Space. So all one word, Create Space. And they are Amazon.com's print-on-demand, POD company. Create Space, I want to say this was in 2009 that I self-published my second book, 10 years ago. And 2009, it was around $750 for the setup fee. I paid a graphic designer to make my front cover for me. I want to say that was about $500 to $1,000. I don't remember exactly what it was. I paid an editor $500 to read over the book and make corrections. And then I put it out there on Amazon. When you do the POD Create Space, you can put it on Amazon. So that's what I did and got it out there. It was called 21 Life Lessons from Livin' La Vida Low Carb, the one I did in 2009. It ended up selling a combined between the paper version and the ebook version, I sold combined about 10,000 copies of that one, because my following was such that it was really, really good. The following, it did well. So because of the success of that book and because of the success of my podcast, I was able to get a publishing contract, and I'm still writing books. I am now writing on number 9, 10, and 11 books. So if you're just joining us, I'm getting a lot of questions from people about writing a book and what's it take, and hey, I got this great idea. And the first thing I always tell people is a great idea for a book is not the most important thing about a book. The most important thing is, do you have a following? Do you have people that already are interested in what you have to say? If you don't, my heavy advice to you is start building your brand. So what do you do to build up your brand so you can get to that book? You provide content, content, content. You guys know me. I'm pretty much the content king when it comes to low carb, keto, health, nutrition. I'm constantly giving you new podcasts. Mondays, we do the Nutritional Pearls podcast. Tuesday, Wednesday, Living La Vida Low Carb show. Thursday is Keto Talk. Friday, Keto Hacking MD podcast here on Instagram Live and on YouTube and Facebook Live. I do these Jimmy rants. I'm providing you content, content, content. So what is that doing? That's kind of proven my voice so that you're familiar with who I am. You follow, you tell your friends to follow, and then you have all of this kind of cascade of people wanting to be interested in what you do. And once you get them interested in what you do, then you build the following, you get enough people that then you maybe decide to self-publish a book like we talked about with the Create Space. And then you kind of prove yourself there. Another thing you can do besides Create Space, some people, they'll release like an ebook. So they have the book idea, and I sometimes will say, you know what, just put it out as an ebook and see if people want it. And if people love it enough, they'll buy the ebook, and then they'll kind of demand, hey, can you make this a paper copy too? And put it out there, and just you can use that as a feeler. An ebook won't cost you near as much because there's really no setup fees per se, other than kind of the initial fees of making it into a Kindle ebook. But throw the ebook out there, see how it does, and that's another way to do this. So what I'm sharing with you here today is kind of some of the ways that people go about getting a book, because everybody and their mama seems to be getting a book these days. And it's pretty gratifying, actually, to see different people grow into their role of they build content, they build a brand, they build trust with their audience, and then they decide to write books and put them out there. I definitely want to hear from you. What is it that you like about the people that you follow that have books? And I'm going to almost guarantee that most of what you have to say is going to have to be with, you felt like you had a personal connection to their story. You felt like that what they shared was authentic. You appreciated the value that they added to you. These are all things that are probably the reasons why you, as a follower of various people that have books, that you like about them, and that they provide good quality resources. And in the realm of what I write about, for example, keto and nutrition and health, it's backed by science, and that's pretty much why you follow them, right? So that's what I wanted to share with you today. A lot of really interesting questions and comments, and how do you do this, and help me out. I really want to write a book. I have this book in my heart. I really want to get it out to you guys, and blah, blah, blah. And so they come to me because I have written 8 books. I have 3 more on the way. And I have a whole lot more than 3 more on the way, but 3 more coming in the next kind of year and a half. So do you guys aspire to write a book? I would love to answer your questions while I'm here on this Jimmy Rants. What are those questions that you might have about this journey of wanting to write a book? How do you get published? What's it look like? What's the writing process? Let me tell you a little bit of my writing process. And it freaked Christine out when we wrote Real Food Keto together, because I have kind of a process. Here's what I do. first thing I do is I have blank page, and on that blank page, I just brain dump. So whatever the topic is, I'm just like typing away. I'm not worried about spelling errors. I'm not worried about grammar. I'm just getting information down. Maybe there's an interesting fact that I found out about, or a new study or something, and I'll just copy and paste and throw it in there so that I could go back and rewrite it later. And I put it all on paper. And actually the very first thing that I do is I outline. This is where I want to go with the book. So when I started writing on the clarity books, I had a specific kind of flow that I wanted cholesterol clarity and keto clarity to have. And if I ever write another clarity book, we'll do the same flow for that as well. And so I had kind of what I wanted to write about. And I actually gravitated to all of those chapters that I knew I had a bunch up here to dump. And so I would dump those things first and put them on paper. And sometimes I would write it all out, walk away for a few hours, and then come right back and I go, and I'll reread what I wrote and go, oh yeah. And then that spawned another thought. And even in the day-to-day, like when I'm writing social media posts, I will write out the whole post, then I'll go back to the very top and I'll slowly read and go, oh, I meant to add this, and I'll add it in. And that's kind of my thinking process when I'm writing, is just get something on paper. And then once you have something on paper, then that spawns something else when you reread it. And in the case of Keto Clarity, you guys, that was my baby. That was the one that I knew was going to be special. I rewrote it 100 times. 100 times. No kidding. In fact, Christine will tell you, we were on the low carb cruise in 2014, and we were supposed to go on an excursion. I ended up staying in, and I rewrote the whole book like 2-3 times that week because I needed it to be as good as it could possibly be. And here's a dirty little secret. Everybody's like, well, I don't want to publish till the manuscript is perfect. Can I give you a newsflash, rude awakening? Your manuscript will never be absolutely 100% perfect. But think about this. Had I waited until Keto Clarity was perfect before I published, think of all the hundreds of thousands of people that have bought that book, and the millions more that have seen it in libraries and borrowed it and gotten it gifts, blah, blah, blah. Had I not released that to the world, how many lives would not have been changed? Because that resource would not have ever gotten out there because it wasn't perfect. So let that be a lesson as well. But my writing process is pretty chill. And then, of course, when I started writing books for a publisher, I got the rude awakening of having editors that you have to abide by. And I have a story from Victor Belt when I first started writing for them. Cholesterol Clarity was my first book with them. I remember they said we need 60 to 120,000 words. I'm like, no problem. I ended up giving them 90,000 words for Cholesterol Clarity. And in the first edit back from the editors back in 2012, 13, when they were editing that, the first edit back whittled it down to 70,000 words. And I was reading this manuscript that they corrected, and they had removed all my humor. They had removed my voice. And I remember calling back up the publisher and I said, you know what, if that's what you're going to publish and have my name on the book, then I'm out. Keep in mind, I haven't proven anything with this publisher yet. This was going to be my first book with them. And so they were like, no, we want your voice, because you guys know my style's a little bit silly. It's a little bit conversational. I can be a little goofy at times, and so that's just my style. And they took all of that out of there. I said, put it back, and we'll keep writing on it. So they did. They corrected some grammar stuff. They corrected this and that. And that's the other thing. People are like, well, I don't write real well. Well, there's editors that will write for you if you want to. But if you write well, you'll write more than one book. Like I said, I'm on my 9th, 10th, and 11th book coming out. And part of the reason why my publisher likes me is I actually know how to write. There's a lot of people that write books that they don't know how to write. And so it's actually written by editors. What they do is they put down the concepts and they have the rough draft, and then the editors are the ones that are rewriting the book for them. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about this whole idea that people want to write a book. I'm getting a lot of emails from people in private messages. Hey, you've written a bunch of books. Tell me how you did that. So I'm giving a few of the lessons from my journey as an author. I have had 3 books that have hit international bestseller status. So the first one was in 2015 when the Ketogenic Cookbook came out. Me and Maria Emmerich teamed up on that one, and it hit international best-selling status. So what does that mean? It means it hit a bestseller list in another country besides America. So it hit the Globe and Mail bestsellers list in Canada. Then my book after that was The Complete Guide to Fasting, and it also hit international bestseller status, landing on the Globe and Mail in Canada as well. It was number 7 in all books on Amazon. And just this last year, a full 2 years after it came out, it hit the Wall Street Journal bestsellers list. And then Keto Clarity also hit international bestseller status. So I had 3 books there in a row that all did like super duper hot. And a lot of people are like, well, how'd you do that? Part of the reason those 3 did so well is when I wrote Keto Clarity, there was no keto community yet. It was the first book that actually put keto in the title. And it was such an overwhelming success that the book after that we wrote, which was a cookbook, the Ketogenic Cookbook, it was the first ketogenic cookbook that was out there, which is why it sold so well. And then the Complete Guide to Fasting, nobody had really written a book about fasting. So by the time my next book in keto came out was the Keto Cure in April of last year, keto had already come on board. We had a bunch of Maria Emmerich's books. We had Leanne Vogel's book, The Keto Diet. We had Simply Keto by Suzanne Ryan. We had so many keto books that were starting to get to the point in the market where there's just a lot of keto books and people are confused about which ones to get. So keep that in mind, that if you want to write a book, don't get into a market where the market is already fully saturated. Try to find something unique. What has not been written about? So have a following, but then what has not been written about yet? So I'm already thinking about what those ideas might be coming next. I'm really interested in possibly writing a book maybe about my keto carnivore experiment and experiences from this year. I'm going to play a wait and see a little bit on that to see how Sean Baker's book, when it comes out, how it does. But that's kind of the thought process here. So do you dream of writing a book? Do you want to do that? Is that something that's in your heart of hearts? Don't let anything stop you from writing on it even now. Because people are like, well, I'll wait till I get a contract. No. Go ahead and start writing on it now. Build your brand, build your following, and then when the time comes that you either want to self-publish or get published by a publisher, then you are ready to go. So hopefully some of this information helps you out. And yes, don't adjust your camera. I am not in my normal place that I've been recording. I'm in my old place that I record Jimmy Rants here today. We're traveling today, Christine and I. She's rubbing her eyes, but I'm going to show Christine on camera if she'll...
Oh, I'm just tired.
If she'll put her glasses back on. I'm delaying. This is a delay tactic. There she is. Hi, pretty.
Hey.
So, yeah, we're traveling today. We got some business to do up the road. So we had a little bit of time here. I'm like, I haven't done any Jimmy Rants today. They're going to be like, where's Jimmy? I need Jimmy Rants. So I thought I'd do this one here for you guys. I'm living La Vida Low Carb. Says that somebody's got a username. It's I'm living La Vida Low Carb. That's me, man. Get after it, Jimmy. Hey, I will, Mr. PhD. Thanks for being here, man. Hello, Tammy. Don't rant and drive, says Million Pound Mission. No problem, says Bullock in 2018 about being in the car. That's better than the hot tub. Hey, you don't like my hot tub rants? I think the hot tub rants are pretty hot. I was waiting for the snide of derision over here from Christine, but she didn't pick up what I laid down. The hot tub rants that I do are hot. You're supposed to go...
No.
Not. Peter Reiterman says, hi, Jimmy. Where do I start to find beta readers? I finished the second draft of a fantasy book. Hey, I would say, Peter, avoid family because they won't give you honest feedback about how it reads, especially your mom. And my mom gives me the best compliment. When she read Keto Clarity, she called me up and she said, you know what? I felt like I was talking to my son. I said, thank you, Mom. That was the vibe I was going for, because my style of writing, even though it's nonfiction, is very conversational. If you ever read a book of mine, you will think that I'm talking to you. And that's the way it's supposed to read. When I write, that's how I write. I write like I talk. And you guys get to see me talk on a daily basis here on Jimmy Rants. And I literally write the exact same way that I talk. So when you're reading it, in fact, a lot of people say they hear my voice when they're reading the words. I know Richard came on here. Richard buys all of my audiobooks, and because he'll post little snippets from his runs where he's listening to the audiobooks. And so you can literally hear my voice too. All of the books I've ever done, except for the Ketogenic Cookbook, because nobody wants to hear 1/4 cup of almond flour, 1 pinch of salt. Yeah, we're not going to do that. But where do you start to find beta readers for your second draft of a fantasy book? I would just throw it out there to people randomly. And if you have a following of people that follow you on social media, maybe throw it out there as a contest. Hey, I got this second draft of a book I've been working on. You guys love my work. You've been following me, blah, blah, blah. Can I offer 10 of you an opportunity to see what I'm working on? If you'll give me honest feedback, maybe incentivize them, give them like a $25 gift card to Amazon or something like that as an incentive. And then that way they're not really tied to you beyond they follow you, but they're not family. Give that a go. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I just had so many recently talk about wanting to write a book that I said, hey, it's not as hard as you think it is, but it's a little more tricky than you think it is. Because it's not just as simple as, ooh, I have a good idea for a book. And it's not about the idea you have for a book, but the following that you have and the uniqueness of your idea. Like I said, if right now you wanted to write a book about keto, I'd say, yeah, don't do that, because unless you have some new angle that hasn't been hit, pretty much all of the keto books that are out there have hit just about everything that has to do with keto. I would say try to find something nobody's written about before. That's what we did with Keto Clarity. That was the first book that really got deep on a consumer level of understanding, deep into what a ketogenic diet was. All the books before then that kind of hit on ketogenic was all sciencey books written in very sciencey language that nobody could reach. So I carved a niche out for myself as a translator of that science into layman's terms, and now that book becomes that entry level into keto for so many people, and it still is today. And the same with the Complete Guide to Fasting. When that book came out, there really weren't any books that talked about anything beyond intermittent fasting. There was no books that mentioned alternate day fasting. There was no books that talked about extended fasting and some of the things to be aware of and some of the challenges that might come up and how you overcome them and blah, blah, blah. So it was a unique book. And that book to this day, the Complete Guide to Fasting, almost 3 years old now, and it's still under 200 in all books on Amazon because it was unique. So if you want to write a book, make sure it's something that's different, something that's unique, something that hasn't been done before, and make sure you have a following to get the word out. Or here's the other thing. If you yourself don't have a following, do you know people that have followings? Go to those people and say, hey, will you help me out if I release this book? And a lot of them will. A lot of them will. Charming Confessions wants to know, do you have pointers for writing a self-told journey of one's experience, struggles, and how something like keto helped them? Oh boy, do I ever. Honesty, like to a fault, honesty, Charming Confessions. I think people are so sick of oh, just do this and then do this and all is great. I want to hear about your struggles. I want to hear about the ups, the downs, the really downs, the in-betweens. All of that stuff that's in the middle is what people need to hear. All of that stuff that nobody wants to talk about is what people need to hear. And even if it means you stumbled along the way and you make yourself vulnerable, I think that will speak such volumes. Now you can go to the morbid and share too much, the whole TMI thing. But I think there's a nice balance. I think if you show enough of that struggle and what it took to get there, and maybe the journey and all the slip ups and all of that. If you've read our book, Real Food Keto, go reread the introduction, because that's Christine's story and she laid it all out there. This is all the things that I went through in my health journey. And it kind of gives the reader a lot more context of who and what you are, because if they relate to you and they are gripped, and I would put this information really at the front of the book because you want to grip them. Make sure that first chapter, which is usually the introduction in a lot of my books, make sure that first introduction to you when they're reading the book grips them. You want to capture their attention right away. I have struggles I would love to share, as my journey has definitely not been easy or roses. I think that'll be fascinating. But then always bring it back though. So you show the ugly, you show the bad, you show the kind of rockiness that took you to your journey, but then let it end on a happy note, let it end on some instructive note, and you'll have the winning combination for something that will connect with people. And don't get overly technical in the language. I think sometimes people try to do that to look smart. And sometimes I get criticized in my books. Oh, you don't go deep enough in the science. I'm like, I'm not trying to go deep in the science. I'm trying to give people just enough of the science to whet their appetite to go research it on their own. So don't feel like you have to go all the way down a rabbit trail, because you may lose most of your audience while they're doing that. Now, that some of us nutrition nerds will love it and will go down the rabbit trail with you, but a lot of people that are just casually reading your book may not. And so you need to be aware of that as well. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, you can engage live in the content. Follow me here on Instagram Live at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. When I'm not traveling, I also have Facebook Live on, usually over there, but not today. We're traveling, and I needed to get in a Jimmy Rants to say hello to you guys here today. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, it does disappear. So be sure to go watch all the past episodes up on YouTube. Type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, we have the best of the best moments of this here show in a podcast form. It's the Jimmy Rants podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Stitcher. All of these links, you guys, are at jimmyrants.com. And there I see my friend Daryl Edwards just popped on here. What up, man? He is Daryl, have you written 3 books now? He is a 3-time published author in the UK, and he has found a way to publish books about fitness and paleo and getting his name out there. He's definitely done his part. He travels around the world, you guys, doing all of this primal play. So Daryl, mad respect for the platform that you have built. And you definitely could have had a lot to contribute to this Jimmy Rants today, but we're ending it now, dude. So, but go check out Daryl Edwards, primalplay.com. He definitely is another one of those people that has taken his passion and his dream and put it into book form multiple times over to try to help people on their journey to getting healthy and getting fit. All right, guys, that's it. We'll see you again next time. Bye.